Marcus Landry adjusted his headset and squinted at the jumbled signal on the readout. It's coming from Sector 9D, near the outer edge of the belt. I don't recognize the signature. His crewmate, Sam Carter, leaned over to check the console. No way, that's a mining drone. It's way too large. Could be a derelict cargo ship, maybe even a station fragment. Should we notify HQ? Marcus scratched his chin, thinking it over. HQ won't move fast enough, and if it's valuable, someone else could swoop in. We go take a look. Sam grinned. You're still gunning for a cut of the salvage bonus, huh? You know it. Power up the scanner array. Let's get a clear read before we waste fuel. The Odyssey's sensors hummed to life, sweeping the sector as Marcus and Sam monitored the data. They'd been working as a team for almost 3 years, splitting time between asteroid mining contracts and scavenging ops. Sam had a knack for jury-rigging old equipment, while Marcus handled navigation and dealt with clients. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept them flying. It's got a heat signature, Sam said, pointing to a faint blip on the screen. Still active, maybe emergency systems. That's no rock. Marcus glanced at him. How close are we to the coordinates? 15 clicks, tops. But it's right near that asteroid cluster. Could be tricky to maneuver. Nothing we haven't done before. Let's check it out. If it's something big, we'll call in reinforcements. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls. Better suit up, just in case. Sam nodded and headed to the locker. They both donned lightweight EVA suits, more out of caution than necessity. The Odyssey wasn't a combat ship, and they weren't armed for anything other than potential hull breaches or mechanical repairs. The last thing they wanted was to run into trouble they couldn't handle. Approaching the coordinates now, Marcus said as the Odyssey glided through the asteroid field. The blip on their scanners grew stronger, and soon, a strange silhouette emerged from the shadows of the rocks. It wasn't human-made. That's definitely not one of ours, Sam muttered. The ship was sleek, dark, and battered, with unfamiliar markings and an eerie, almost organic curvature. It was unlike any craft Marcus had ever seen in his years working the belt. He brought the Odyssey to a stop at a safe distance, scanning it from bow to stern. Life signs? He asked. Sam fiddled with the sensors. Something faint. Could be a survivor in stasis or low power mode. We can't just leave them there. We'll do a manual approach. Marcus set the Odyssey on a steady trajectory toward the derelict vessel. Keep your eyes on the scanners. If we see any signs of danger, we back off immediately. As they drew closer, the ship's damage became more apparent. It looked as though it had been caught in a firefight. Gaping holes marred the hull, and a few sections were sheared clean off. The vessel's design was sleek and advanced, but its current state made it clear it had been through hell. I'll bring us around to the airlock, Marcus said. You prep the portable stabilizer. If there's anyone left inside, we'll need to get them out quickly. Sam nodded and moved to the equipment bay. Think they'll be friendly? Let's hope we don't have to find out the hard way. The Odyssey gently nudged against the alien vessel's hull. Marcus set the ship on standby mode and followed Sam to the airlock. The two men worked in silence, double-checking their gear before stepping into the unknown. With a hiss, the airlock cycled, and they moved across the short distance to the alien craft. Looks like the door's jammed, Sam said. I'll rig the plasma cutter. Marcus held the flashlight steady while Sam carefully carved through the damaged access panel. The metal sizzled and flared, but within minutes, the door slid open just enough for them to squeeze through. Inside, the ship was dim and eerily quiet. The air was stale but breathable. Panels flickered on and off, and cables hung loose from the ceiling. It reminded Marcus of a dying animal, fighting to stay alive. Over there, Sam whispered, pointing down the corridor. A faint glow emanated from one of the rooms. They approached cautiously, each step echoing through the empty halls. When they reached the source of the light, Marcus was the first to peer inside. A figure lay slumped against the wall, wrapped in a shimmering, tattered cloak. Its skin was a pale blue-gray, and its features were both alien and strangely familiar. It stirred weakly at the sound of their footsteps. It's alive, Marcus said quietly. Sam, grab the med kit. Sam rushed forward, and the alien opened its eyes, large, luminous, and filled with an expression Marcus couldn't quite place. The alien tried to speak, its voice a weak, melodic tone that didn't register in their translators. It's trying to communicate, Sam said, holding out the med kit. What do we do? Marcus knelt beside the alien, speaking slowly and clearly. We're here to help. Can you understand us? The alien blinked and nodded weakly. It reached for a device on its wrist, tapping a few buttons. The translator kicked in, though the voice was faint and distorted. Thank you, it said. You saved me. Marcus exchanged a look with Sam. Who are you? What happened to your ship? Ambush pirates. The alien managed, each word labored. System failed. Can you walk? Marcus asked. The alien shook its head. Too weak. Need time. All right, Marcus said, turning to Sam. We'll carry them to the Odyssey. We can't stay here. Sam nodded and helped Marcus lift the alien carefully. Together, they brought the survivor back to the airlock, retracing their steps and moving with purpose. Once aboard the Odyssey, they set the alien down in the medical bay and began tending to its wounds. This changes everything, doesn't it? Sam asked, his voice hushed. Yeah, Marcus said, gazing down at their unexpected passenger. It really does. Chapter 2. The Empire takes notice. The silence aboard the ship was broken by the soft hum of the medical scanner. The alien, calling himself Tareen, had stabilized after a night under the Odyssey's basic medical unit. Marcus sat across from him, arms crossed, while Sam stood nearby, fidgeting with a set of tools he didn't really need to work on. Let's start with the basics, Marcus said. You've got a name, so that's a good start. But who are you exactly, and why were you floating out there alone? Tareen's gaze flickered toward Sam before settling back on Marcus. His voice was low and deliberate, as though he was piecing words together carefully. I am a negotiator. My ship was on a diplomatic mission when we were ambushed. They came out of nowhere. My crew. They didn't survive. Sam stopped tinkering and looked over. You mean pirates? We've had some trouble with raiders in the outer sectors before, but they don't usually mess with, well, people like you. Tareen's lips tightened, his gray-blue skin paling slightly. Not pirates. Not your kind. Other species, opportunists. They must have tracked my vessel. They struck quickly, and when I called for aid, there was no time to escape. Marcus leaned back, trying to process what he was hearing. So you're some kind of diplomat? From where? Tareen's hesitation was slight, but noticeable. I am part of a collective. My people are known as the Elvari. We interact with many other civilizations. Sam snorted softly. Interact? Is that what you call it? You mean your empire? Tareen's expression shifted, a flicker of discomfort crossing his features. We do not use that term, but I understand your meaning. Our reach is extensive. We work to maintain order when we can. Marcus wasn't sure how to respond. The idea of an alien civilization spanning countless systems, reaching into the very heart of the galaxy, was more than he'd ever considered. He shot a glance at Sam, who seemed equally unsure of what to say. Tareen, sensing their hesitation, sighed. I know this must seem overwhelming, but I am in your debt. Your actions saved me when others would have passed by. It is not something I take lightly. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Marcus said. We're just a couple of guys doing our job. If we see a ship in distress, we check it out. That's the rule out here. Sam chimed in. Yeah, well, most folks don't make a habit of picking up strangers. And certainly not aliens. That much I can tell, Tareen said, a faint smile crossing his lips. Your people are different, direct. It is a quality I admire. Well, you'll find we're plenty direct, Marcus said. Now, what happens next? You said you called for aid. Is anyone still looking for you? Tareen's smile faded. My distress beacon was activated, but it was damaged in the attack. I doubt the signal traveled far. And given the political situation, It is unlikely that help will come quickly. Marcus exchanged a glance with Sam. What do you mean, political situation? Tarin's hesitation returned. My mission was sensitive. Not all members of our collective approve of the paths we pursue. My presence here may complicate matters for both you and your people. Complicate how? Sam asked, arms crossed. I was traveling to mediate a dispute between two factions within our sphere of influence. It was meant to be a delicate operation. The ambush suggests that certain parties were less interested in diplomacy and more interested in eliminating obstacles. And now you're that obstacle, Marcus said. Great. Sam rolled his eyes. So what do we do with you? If we drop you off at the nearest colony, will they just come after you again? Or after us? Tarin sat back in the medical chair, visibly exhausted. I cannot say what they will do, but I believe that returning me to my people would be the safest course of action. They will know how to protect me. Marcus wasn't convinced. And who's going to protect us? We're just a two-man crew. No offense, but we're not equipped to handle a galactic political mess. Tarin inclined his head. I understand your concerns. I have no intention of drawing you into my conflict. But I must ask for your trust just a little longer. If you help me return to my people, I can ensure that you will not be left without aid. That's a lot of promises from a guy we just met, Sam said, crossing his arms. Yeah, Marcus agreed, though he felt a nagging sense of obligation. But it's not like we can just leave him here. True, Sam admitted grudgingly. And I guess if we get tangled in this mess, it's not like we can blame him. We made the call. Marcus turned back to Tarin. All right, we'll see what we can do to get you to your people. But if things go sideways, we're cutting and running. Got it. Tarin gave a slow, respectful nod. Understood. And again, I thank you for your generosity. Your people are unique. Well, we'll see about that, Marcus muttered. He pushed back from the console, signaling the end of the conversation. Sam, start plotting a course. Let's see where this road takes us. Chapter 3. A Clash of Cultures. Marcus and Sam stood side by side, gazing out through the viewport as their ship approached the massive station that served as the Galactic Empire's central hub. The structure was unlike anything they'd seen before. A sprawling web of interconnected platforms and shimmering domes, each teeming with activity. Ships of every shape and size moved in and out of the docks, creating a constant flow of light and motion. So this is it, Marcus said quietly. The heart of the Empire. Sam adjusted the collar of his jacket. Yeah, and we're walking right into it. Think we'll find anyone here who doesn't think we're just a bunch of backwater primitives? We'll find out soon enough, Marcus replied. He glanced back at Tarin, who stood just behind them, his expression unreadable. Everything okay back there? Marcus asked. Tarin nodded, though his posture was tense. This station represents the combined efforts of many species over centuries. It is a place of diplomacy and of caution. I recommend that you remain alert. Great, Sam muttered. Sounds like we're stepping into a political minefield. As the ship docked, Marcus and Sam followed Tarin through the bustling corridors. The station was a riot of color and sound, with aliens of every imaginable form going about their business. Some paused to stare at the humans, their expressions ranging from curiosity to disdain. Marcus tried to keep his focus on Tarin, who walked with a purpose, his steps confident even as the crowd seemed to close in around them. They eventually arrived at a grand chamber, where a gathering of Empire officials waited. The room was dominated by a central platform, with holographic displays projecting star charts and political maps. Around the platform stood representatives of several alien species, each one distinct in appearance and demeanor. Their attention turned sharply to the humans as the trio entered. Tarin stepped forward and addressed the group in their shared diplomatic language. I am Tarin, envoy of the Elvari. These humans, Marcus Landry and Sam Carter, aided me when my vessel was attacked. They are here as my guests. A low murmur rippled through the room. One of the officials, a tall figure with iridescent scales and sharp, angular features, stepped forward. Humans, the figure said, their voice a deep, resonant tone. We have heard of your kind, but never have we seen one in person. Tell us, why did you involve yourselves in our affairs? Marcus exchanged a glance with Sam before stepping up. It wasn't about getting involved. We saw someone in trouble and we helped. That's what we do. Another official, a smaller creature with translucent skin and multiple limbs, made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. A simple answer. And yet, you must know that such actions can carry great consequences. Look, Sam interjected. We're not here to make enemies or start any fights. We just did what we thought was right. If that's a problem, then maybe the problem isn't with us. The room grew quiet. Tarin's expression remained calm, but his gaze shifted slightly as if gauging the reaction of the officials. After a long pause, the scaled figure spoke again. It is not our way to judge intentions hastily. However, your presence here is unconventional. We must discuss how this matter will proceed. The meeting continued, with Marcus and Sam doing their best to hold their ground. Tarin guided the conversation where he could, ensuring that the humans' actions were viewed in the best possible light. Despite the tension, Marcus began to notice subtle signs of curiosity among the officials. Some leaned in when he spoke, while others seemed to be silently evaluating every word. When the discussion finally concluded, one of the representatives approached Marcus directly. This individual was tall and slender, with a faintly luminous aura that gave their movements an ethereal quality. You are not what I expected, the representative said, their voice melodic. Your kind is bold, perhaps even reckless, yet there is a sincerity in your words. It is rare. Marcus wasn't sure how to respond. Thanks, I guess. We're just trying to do the right thing. The representative tilted their head, studying him closely. Your species may have potential. If you can navigate the complexities of our society, you may find allies among us. But be warned, there are those here who will see your presence as a threat. Noted, Marcus said. We'll tread carefully. The representative nodded once before turning to leave. Tarin approached, his expression thoughtful. You handled yourselves well. This is only the beginning, but you have already made an impression. Sam let out a low whistle. That was intense. And we're not even done yet. Marcus shook his head. No, we're not. But we're here now, and we're not backing down. Tarin gave a faint smile. Indeed, you have already shown that you are willing to stand your ground. That will serve you well. As they made their way back to the ship, Marcus felt the weight of the day settling on his shoulders. The Galactic Empire was a vast, complicated network of alliances, rivalries, and agendas. But despite the odds, he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd taken an important first step, and whatever came next, they would face it together. Chapter 4: Alliances and Betrayals. Marcus paced the narrow corridor outside the docking bay, his boots scuffing the metal floor as he tried to focus. Every encounter since their arrival on the station had been more challenging than the last. Sam leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching Marcus. Pacing's not gonna help, Sam said. We need a plan. Marcus paused mid-step and looked over. What do you think I've been doing this whole time? We're in over our heads. Half the people here think we're trouble, and the other half are looking for ways to use us. Sam shrugged. We're not exactly the most diplomatic guys around. But hey, at least we've got Tarin. Yeah, if you can trust him, Marcus muttered. He's been keeping his cards close. I don't like being in the dark. Sam raised an eyebrow. Don't start getting paranoid on me now. He's the reason we're not floating in a holding cell. Besides, you're the one who wanted to help him. Marcus sighed. I know. I don't know who we can trust anymore. At that moment, Tarin approached, his steps light and deliberate. He nodded politely to both of them before speaking. I trust I'm not interrupting. Marcus stopped pacing. What's going on? There's a representative from the KLYTH Union who wishes to speak with you, Tarin said. They've taken an interest in your actions and wish to discuss future opportunities. Sam frowned. Opportunities? Like what, a job offer? More like an alliance, Tarin replied. The Galactic Union is a smaller faction within the Empire. They see potential in your species' resourcefulness. Potential or leverage? Marcus asked, narrowing his eyes. They're not offering their hand out of goodwill. Of course not, Tareen said with a faint smile. But that doesn't mean you should dismiss them outright. They have resources, information, and influence that could benefit you. Or they could stab us in the back the moment it suits them, Marcus said. We need more information before we make any deals. Sam gestured toward the bay doors. Fine, let's hear them out. But we keep our guard up. The trio made their way to a private meeting chamber, where a Galactic representative awaited. The alien's appearance was striking. A tall, sinewy figure with jet-black scales that shimmered faintly under the lights. Their voice was smooth and measured. Ah, the humans, the Galactic envoy began, inclining their head. I must say, your actions have sparked quite the discussion among our circles. Yeah, we've noticed, Marcus said, his tone guarded. What do you want? Want? Nothing so crude, the envoy replied. Rather, we wish to offer an arrangement. You see, we value those who can think outside the conventional structures of the Empire. And you have already demonstrated that you are not bound by our traditions. Sam leaned forward. So what's the catch? No catch, the envoy said smoothly. Merely an exchange of support. We can provide you with resources, protection, and valuable information. In return, we would ask for your cooperation on certain endeavors. Endeavors? Marcus echoed. I said, bowing slightly. Take your time. We are patient. After the meeting, the three of them returned to their quarters. Marcus slumped into a chair, rubbing his temples. I don't like this. They're trying too hard to get us on their side. Tareen looked thoughtful. The Galactic Union is known for their subtlety. They rarely make direct moves. If they've approached you, it means they see a significant advantage. Or they see us as expendable, Sam pointed out. Both are possible, Tareen said. But you have leverage. They want something from you. That gives you the upper hand. Marcus sat forward. What about you, Tareen? Why haven't you warned us about these factions before? Tareen met his gaze. Because I wanted you to see for yourselves. Words mean little without experience. Now that you've met them, you understand what you're dealing with. Sam snorted. That's one way to put it. The room fell silent for a moment, each of them lost in thought. Then Marcus broke the silence. We need to be careful. If we pick a side too early, we'll get caught in their games. But if we don't pick at all, we'll be seen as a threat. Agreed, Tareen said. But keep this in mind. Alliances are not always permanent. Sometimes, they are merely a means to an end. Sam crossed his arms. And what end are we working toward? Just getting out of here alive. That would be a good start, Marcus said. After that, we'll figure it out. Tareen stood, his posture calm and steady. The Galactic Union is only one piece of the puzzle. There are others who will approach you in time. Use your instincts. Choose wisely. Marcus nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling that their choices would only grow more complicated from here. Chapter 5: The Bond Grows. Back aboard the ship, Marcus and Sam kept their heads low. The station's political games were exhausting, and the encounter with the Galactic Union left them wary. They agreed that sticking to themselves for the time being would be best. That meant long hours of maintenance work, fine-tuning the ship systems, and repairing the wear and tear from their last outing. Sam was under a console, muttering to himself while Marcus crouched beside him, handing over tools. You want the flux wrench or the microspanner next? Marcus asked, holding both out. Microspanner, Sam replied. He reached for it without looking, but Marcus pulled it back at the last second. What's the magic word? Marcus teased. Seriously, Sam groaned. Hand it over, man. I'm not in the mood. Not the answer I was looking for. Marcus smirked, holding it just out of reach. Try again. Please, Sam said with exaggerated annoyance. Was that so hard? Marcus handed it over, shaking his head. What are you even fixing down there? Anyway? I thought we tuned the comm array last week. Sam twisted the tool in the panel, making an adjustment before sliding out and sitting up. Yeah, well, the station's comm traffic messed with our calibrations. Everything's out of sync. If we had a better rig, it'd be fine, but instead we're stuck patching it every time someone sneezes near our signal range. I hear that, Marcus said, leaning back against the bulkhead. Maybe one day we'll get our hands on some top-shelf tech. Sure, when the Empire decides to start handing out gifts, Sam said dryly. Not holding my breath. Marcus chuckled. Guess it's up to us then. Before Sam could reply, the door to the bay slid open, and Tareen entered. He looked more composed than he had in the past few days, his long cloak trailing behind him as he approached. Am I interrupting? Tareen asked, his tone polite. Nah, Marcus said, waving him in. Just working on some comm issues. What's up? Tareen hesitated briefly before stepping closer. I wish to discuss something personal. If you have a moment. Sam shot Marcus a questioning glance, then stood. Sure thing. I'll let you two chat. With that, he grabbed a nearby toolkit and headed out. Marcus raised an eyebrow at Tareen. What's on your mind? Tareen looked down, as if searching for the right words. I have spent many cycles among my own kind and countless others. Yet your actions continue to puzzle me. Not sure if that's a compliment, Marcus said, folding his arms. Care to elaborate? You treat others, those different from you, as equals, Tareen said. You extend kindness without expecting anything in return. It is rare. Marcus shrugged. Maybe in the Empire, but where I'm from, it's just how we were raised. You see someone in need, you help. Simple as that. Simple, Tareen repeated softly. And yet, simplicity can carry great weight. I find myself wondering if your species might accomplish what others have failed to do. Marcus gave him a sidelong look. What's that supposed to mean? Bridge the divide, Tareen said. Create a true sense of understanding. It may sound naive, but I find it intriguing. Marcus didn't reply immediately. Instead, he let the words settle. Then he nodded. I'll take that as a compliment, but don't put us on a pedestal. We've got our flaws, same as anyone else. Perhaps, Tareen said, his lips curving into a faint smile. But you are different. That much is certain. Marcus felt a flicker of unease, but he kept his expression neutral. We'll see how long that lasts. Sooner or later, people will start treating us like everyone else in the Empire. Tareen inclined his head. That is possible. But until then, I will continue to observe. Well, if you're observing, you might as well help out, Marcus said. You seem like you know your way around tech. We could use an extra set of hands on the sensors. Tareen hesitated, then nodded. Very well. Show me what needs to be done. Over the next few hours, the two worked together on the ship systems. Marcus guided Tareen through the human technology, explaining the purpose of each component, while Tareen offered insights from his own knowledge. They fell into a comfortable rhythm, their initial wariness giving way to mutual respect. When Sam returned, he found them talking easily, their shared task creating an unexpected camaraderie. He stood in the doorway for a moment, watching before stepping in. Looks like you two are bonding, he said with a grin. Don't get used to it, Marcus replied. He's still a guest, not a crew member. Tareen inclined his head. Perhaps, but I am grateful for the opportunity to assist. Your methods are enlightening. Sam chuckled. Well, if you can handle Marcus's bad jokes and grumpy mornings, you'll fit right in. Marcus threw a rag at Sam. Get back to work, Carter. Sam dodged it easily, still smiling. Yeah, I'm on it. As the three continued their repairs, the ship seemed a little less tense, a little more united. For the first time in days, it felt like they were a real team, even if only for a moment. Chapter 6. A Threat from Within. Marcus stood by the ship's main console, reviewing the latest data streams from the Empire's central network. Sam sat nearby, polishing a new toolkit he had picked up from the station's market. His head tilted as he watched Marcus work. Anything interesting? Sam asked, breaking the silence. Not unless you count the usual bureaucracy, Marcus replied, scrolling through lines of text. Reports on trade disputes, mining quotas, a lot of stuff that doesn't concern us. Typical, Sam muttered. So why are we still here? Tarine's people are supposed to be meeting us, right? Marcus frowned. That's the plan, but I'm starting to think we're being strung along. Tarine keeps saying his contact will show, but every time we ask for details, he dodges the question. Sam leaned back in his chair, stretching his legs. You're thinking he's hiding something? I'm thinking we need to be careful, Marcus said. Something about this whole situation doesn't add up. Just then, the ship's intercom crackled, and Tarine's voice came through. Marcus, Sam, would you join me in the briefing room? Marcus exchanged a look with Sam before heading down the corridor. Tarine stood by the table, his hands clasped in front of him. His usually calm expression looked strained, and the tension in the room was palpable. What's going on? Marcus asked, leaning against the doorframe. I have received word from my contact, Tarine began, but the news is concerning. Let me guess, Sam said dryly. It's not good. Tarine nodded. My people have intercepted communications indicating that certain factions within the Empire are unhappy with my actions. They believe I have become compromised. Compromised, Marcus repeated, stepping into the room. Because you're working with us? Exactly, Tarine said. To them, aligning with humans is a sign of weakness, an indication that I am no longer acting in the best interests of our collective. There are those who would prefer I disappear. Sam crossed his arms. Great. So now we've got enemies we didn't even know we made. It was inevitable, Tarine admitted. But it appears their patience has worn thin. I have been warned that an attempt may be made on my life, and perhaps yours as well. Marcus swore under his breath. Do we know who's behind it? Not yet, Tarine said. But the messages suggest someone close to me, someone with influence. I fear we must tread carefully. Wonderful, Sam muttered. So not only are we stuck in a political mess, but now we have to worry about someone putting a knife in our backs. What's the plan? Tarine hesitated, then turned to Marcus. We must leave the station. It is the only way to ensure our safety. But in doing so, we will risk losing contact with my allies. Then we don't have a choice, Marcus said firmly. If someone's targeting us, we can't sit here waiting for them to make their move. We'll take the ship and get out of here. And go where? Sam asked. Someplace far enough to stay off their radar, Marcus replied. We'll figure it out once we're away from the station. Tarine nodded slowly. It may be for the best. I will make the necessary arrangements. As the three men prepared for departure, the tension hung thick in the air. Marcus and Sam worked side by side in the engine room, double-checking every system to ensure the ship was ready to go at a moment's notice. Why do I get the feeling this isn't going to be a simple escape? Sam asked, his voice low. Because it never is, Marcus replied. But that doesn't mean we can't handle it. We've dealt with worse. Yeah, well, I liked it better when worse meant dealing with busted equipment and scrapped cargo, Sam said. Not shadowy political assassins. Marcus gave him a faint smile. I'll take shadowy over up front any day. At least we know they're out there. It's the ones you don't see coming that really get you. Comforting, Sam said dryly, but he kept working. Once the ship was ready, Tarine joined them on the bridge. His usually serene demeanor had given way to something more guarded, more human. He stood silently for a moment before speaking. Thank you, he said quietly, for your trust. I know I have asked much of you. We're not doing it for you, Marcus said. We're doing it because we don't like being played. And if you're right about this, then sticking around here is a death sentence. Still, Tarine said, meeting Marcus's gaze. I am grateful. Marcus nodded and turned back to the controls. Let's just get through this in one piece. The ship lifted off smoothly, pulling away from the station's massive frame. As they moved farther into open space, Marcus allowed himself a brief moment of relief. They had taken the first step away from danger. Now all they had to do was figure out where to go next, and what to do when they got there. Chapter 7. Rising Above the Divide. The ship drifted in the silence of space, its engines idling. Marcus sat in the captain's chair, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen. Sam stood by his side, arms crossed, tension etched across his face. Taurine had retreated to his quarters hours ago, leaving the two humans alone on the bridge. "So," Sam said, breaking the quiet, "what now? We just keep running until someone decides we're not worth chasing." Marcus shook his head. "You know that's not how it works. Sooner or later, we'll have to face them." Sam frowned, leaning against the console. "Yeah, and by them, you mean half the galaxy. Look, I get that you want to see this through, but maybe we need to cut our losses. Dump Taurine somewhere safe, go back to our old routes, and pretend we never got involved." "You think they'd just let us walk away?" Marcus asked. "We've already made enemies. Leaving now would only show them we're weak." "Maybe," Sam admitted, "or maybe it would keep us alive." Marcus leaned back, letting out a long breath. "You ever think about why we're out here in the first place? We could have stayed planet-bound, done something safer. But we didn't." Sam shrugged. "Yeah, well, maybe we were just dumb. Or maybe we wanted something more," Marcus countered. "A chance to make a difference. We've always been on the edge of everything. Now we're finally in the thick of it, and you want to back out." "I'm not saying we back out," Sam said, his tone softening. "I'm just saying we be smart about it. Taurine might be a good guy, but his problems are his problems. We can't fix the Empire's mess." "No, we can't," Marcus agreed. "But we can try to make it better, even if it's just a little." Sam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You always did think you could change the galaxy." "Someone has to," Marcus said, a small grin tugging at his lips. "Might as well be us." Before Sam could respond, the comm panel lit up. Marcus leaned forward and activated it. A holographic figure appeared, its features hazy but recognizable. It was one of the KLYTH Union envoys they'd met on the station. "Captain Landry," the envoy said, their voice calm. "We were not expecting to hear from you." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Well, we've had a change of plans. It seems like certain parties within the Empire aren't too happy with our involvement. We thought you might have some insight." The envoy tilted their head. "I warned you that alliances in this sector are delicate. Your actions, while admirable, have upset the balance. There are those who see your partnership with Taurine as a threat." "That much we figured out," Sam muttered. The envoy glanced at him before continuing. "The question is, what do you intend to do about it?" Marcus hesitated, then said, "We're not looking for a fight. We just want to help Taurine get his message across without getting killed in the process." "And what message would that be?" the envoy asked. "That even a small group can stand up to larger powers," Marcus said. "That collaboration works better than control." The envoy was silent for a moment, their holographic image flickering slightly. "A noble sentiment, but one that often meets resistance. Does that mean you'll help us?" Marcus asked. "It means I will consider your position," the envoy replied. "But know this, by standing with Taurine, you place yourselves in the middle of a conflict that has been simmering for centuries. The consequences could be severe." Marcus exchanged a glance with Sam, then turned back to the envoy. "We've made our choice. We're in this now, for better or worse." The envoy nodded once. "Very well. I will contact you again when I have more information. For now, tread carefully." The hologram disappeared, leaving Marcus and Sam alone once more. Sam exhaled loudly and dropped into the co-pilot's chair. "So now we're on the KLYTH's radar too. Great. At least they're not trying to kill us," Marcus said. "Yet." Sam shot him a look. "That's not exactly reassuring." "I'm not trying to be reassuring," Marcus replied. "I'm just trying to keep us moving forward." "All right," Sam said, leaning back and closing his eyes. "But if this goes sideways, I'm blaming you." "Fair enough," Marcus said, a hint of a smile returning. You always do. The two sat in silence for a while, the hum of the ship's systems filling the void. Despite the uncertainty ahead, Marcus felt a strange sense of calm. Whatever lay beyond the next jump, he knew they'd face it together. Chapter 8. A New Dawn. The stars stretched and blurred, then came into focus again as the ship emerged from hyperspace. Marcus leaned forward in the captain's chair, his jaw set as he took in the distant planet below. Sam sat beside him, his arms crossed, watching the same view. "This the place?" Sam asked. Marcus nodded. "Looks like it. Coordinates match. Let's bring her in nice and easy." Sam flipped a few switches, aligning the approach vector. "Why do I have a feeling this isn't going to be a warm welcome?" "Because you're paranoid," Marcus said with a smirk. "And because you're probably right. But we're not here to make friends. We're here to do a job." "You keep saying that," Sam muttered. "What job are we actually doing again?" Marcus turned to him, a hint of frustration in his voice. "Helping Tareen deliver his message. Making sure the people who want him silenced don't get their way. You know that." "Yeah, but I'd still like a clearer picture of what happens when we actually land," Sam said. "You think we just walk in, have a chat, and everyone holds hands?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He stared out the viewport, the planet's surface drawing closer. "I think we go in prepared for anything," he said finally. "Tareen knows what he's doing. We just have to make sure he gets the chance to do it." Sam let out a low chuckle. "You've got more faith in him than I do." Marcus glanced at him. "You're not the only one who's suspicious. But after everything we've been through, I'm willing to give him a shot. He hasn't given us a reason to doubt him yet." "Yet," Sam emphasized, leaning back. "Fine, I'll go along with it. Just don't say I didn't warn you." "Noted," Marcus said. "Now let's get this landing right. I don't want to be scraping pieces of the ship off the ground." Sam snorted. "You worry too much. I've got this." The ship's descent was smooth, and they touched down on a wide, flat expanse of rock. The area was stark and barren, the atmosphere tinged with a faint orange hue. Marcus and Sam suited up, their movements practiced and efficient. As they stepped out onto the surface, Tareen joined them, his cloak billowing slightly in the light wind. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "This is where it must happen," Tareen said, his voice steady. "The representatives will arrive shortly." "And they know we're coming?" Marcus asked. Tareen nodded. "They have been informed, though I expect some will still be skeptical. Our task is to convince them." Sam glanced at Marcus. "Great. Another negotiation. Just what I wanted." Marcus smirked. "You love it. Come on. Let's see how this plays out." They didn't have to wait long. A small group of figures appeared on the horizon, moving steadily toward them. As they drew closer, Marcus could make out the representatives. Tall, elegant figures from various factions, their clothing and postures radiating authority. Their expressions, however, ranged from curious to openly wary. Tareen stepped forward to greet them, his tone respectful but firm. "I thank you for coming. This meeting is long overdue." One of the representatives, a tall, angular figure with pale green skin and piercing eyes, spoke first. "Why? Stand here now because they believed in something greater." Marcus folded his arms, resisting the urge to chime in. He could feel Sam shifting beside him, clearly uncomfortable but holding his tongue. Another representative, a shorter, broad-shouldered figure with metallic-looking skin, crossed their arms. "Belief is not enough. What evidence do you have that their involvement will benefit us?" Tareen turned to Marcus, gesturing for him to step forward. Marcus took a deep breath and addressed the group. "Look, I'm not here to preach or make promises. I'm just a guy who saw something wrong and tried to fix it. I don't know your laws or your politics, but I do know this. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. If you want change, you have to be willing to try something new." The green-skinned representative raised an eyebrow. "And you believe you are that something new?" "I believe we all are," Marcus said, his voice firm. "Working together, learning from each other. That's what makes us stronger. Not fighting, not clinging to old grudges. Just doing what needs to be done. The group fell silent, their gazes shifting between Marcus, Sam, and Tareen. Finally, the green-skinned representative spoke again. Your words carry weight, human, but words alone will not be enough. We will consider what has been said here. For now, you may proceed under watchful eyes. Tareen inclined his head. Thank you. That is all I ask. As the representatives moved away to discuss among themselves, Marcus and Sam returned to the ship with Tareen. Once inside, Sam let out a long breath. Think they bought it? Sam asked. They listened, Marcus said. That's a start. Tareen turned to them, his expression unreadable. You handled yourselves well. This is only the beginning, but you have done more than you realize. Marcus gave a faint smile. Let's hope it's enough. As the ship prepared to lift off, Marcus and Sam sat together in the cockpit, staring out at the planet's surface below. It wasn't over, not by a long shot. But for now, they'd made their mark. And for once, it felt like they were heading in the right direction.